The council chamber of the starborn throne fell silent as Queen Lissery entered, her flowing robes of deep indigo trailing across the polished obsidian floor. Her pale blue skin seemed to glow with an inner light, but her eyes, typically warm and welcoming, were cold, calculating, distant. She trusted no one, and for good reason. 3 assassination attempts in as many months had left the young queen paranoid and isolated. Her food was tested 7 times before it reached her lips. Her chambers were swept for toxins and explosives hourly. And her royal guard, the legendary Void Sentinels who had protected the throne for 3,000 years, had been replaced entirely after evidence suggested insider involvement in the last attack. The new guard stood at attention along the chamber walls. 15 warriors from various allied worlds, each vetted through months of rigorous background checks. They were strangers to each other, strangers to the queen, and most importantly, strangers to the palace's old network of corruption. Among them stood Private First Class Adrian Cole, the only human in the formation. At 28, Adrian was young for a royal guard position, but his service record was impeccable. 2 tour with the Terran Defense Coalition, specialist training in close protection, decorated for valor during the frontier skirmishes. He'd been selected not for political reasons or family connections, but purely for competence. Still, he could feel the weight of suspicious eyes on him. The Queen's gaze lingered on him longer than the others, and he knew why. Humans were newcomers to the galactic stage, only 3 generations since first contact. Many still viewed them as primitive, unpredictable, potentially dangerous. "Commander Rhynale," the Queen said, addressing the head of her new security detail, a towering Valorian with 4 arms and skin like burnished bronze. "You understand the situation. Someone within the palace wants me dead. Until we identify who, I trust no one. Not my advisors, not my servants, and certainly not you or your guards." "Understood, Your Majesty," Rhynale replied, his deep voice resonating. "We will prove ourselves worthy." "Words," Lissery said dismissively. "Everyone offers words, loyalty, devotion, protection. Then they take payment from my enemies and slip poison into my wine." She moved to the window overlooking the capital city of Velkarith, its crystal spires catching the light of the setting sun. "I will eat alone, sleep alone, trust no one with my life except myself. You will guard the perimeter, nothing more. Am I clear?" "Your Majesty," Adrian heard himself say, taking a half-step forward. "Permission to speak freely." Every eye in the room turned to him. Commander Rhynale's expression darkened. One did not interrupt the Queen, but Lissery raised a hand. "The human wishes to speak. How refreshing." Her tone was ice. "Very well, speak." Adrian met her gaze steadily. "With respect, Your Majesty, complete isolation makes you more vulnerable, not less. If you trust no one, you have no one watching your back when it matters most." "And I should trust you." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "A human I've known for all of 15 minutes. No, ma'am, you shouldn't, not yet." Adrian kept his voice calm, professional. "Trust has to be earned, but you should at least give us the chance to earn it. Otherwise, why have guards at all?" The Queen studied him with those penetrating eyes. "You're either very brave or very foolish human. Probably a bit of both, Your Majesty." For the first time, something flickered across her face, not quite a smile, but perhaps the ghost of one. "What's your name?" "Private First Class Adrian Cole, ma'am. Terran Defense Coalition, seconded to the Royal Guard." "Tell me, Adrian Cole, why should I trust anyone? The last guard I trusted personally delivered poisoned wine to my bedchamber. The food taster before that was bribed to look the other way while my dinner was laced with nightshade. My own cousin, my blood, hired assassins to kill me during the Festival of Lights. Her voice cracked slightly. Everyone has a price. Everyone can be bought or threatened or turned. Adrian considered his words carefully. You're right, Your Majesty. Everyone can be compromised. But there's a difference between trusting blindly and working with a team you've properly vetted. You've isolated yourself so completely that when a real threat comes, and it will come, you'll face it alone. Perhaps that's better than facing it with a knife in my back from someone I thought was protecting me. Or perhaps, Adrian said quietly, you'll die alone because you refuse to let anyone close enough to actually help. The chamber went deathly silent. Commander Rhinell looked like he wanted to drag Adrian out by his collar. Several other guards shifted uncomfortably. But Queen Lissery didn't explode in anger. Instead, she turned back to the window. You're dismissed. All of you take your positions outside. The human stays. The other guards filed out, Rhinell shooting Adrian a look that promised a very unpleasant conversation later. When the doors closed, Adrian and the Queen were alone. You think I'm paranoid, she said, still facing the window. I think you're scared, Adrian replied. And you have every right to be, but fear makes you predictable, Your Majesty. Your enemies know you won't let anyone close. They can use that against you. Lissery turned, and Adrian saw something he hadn't expected, tears threatening to spill from those luminous eyes. Do you know what it's like to second-guess every meal, every drink, every conversation, to wonder if the person standing beside you is the one who will finally succeed in ending your life? No, ma'am, I can't imagine. Then how dare you? But I know what it's like to depend on the person next to me, Adrian interrupted gently. In combat, you learn fast who you can trust. Not with words, but with actions. You learn to read people, to see who has your back and who's looking for the exit. And what do you see when you look at me? I see someone who's been betrayed so many times she's forgotten what genuine loyalty looks like. Someone who's built walls so high that even her allies can't reach her. Adrian took a careful step closer. Your Majesty, those assassination attempts, they worked. Maybe not the way your enemies intended, but they worked. They turned you into a prisoner in your own palace. Lissery was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was small. What would you have me do? Let us do our jobs, not blindly. I'm not asking you to trust without verification, but let us prove ourselves, test us, watch us, see how we respond under pressure. Adrian gestured toward the door. Commander Rhinell has fought in 47 campaigns. Lieutenant Cassara once threw herself on a grenade to save her unit. Only survived because she's crystalline class with regenerative capabilities. Corporal Venix turned down 3 bribes from rival houses just to get this position. We're not all traitors. And you? The Queen asked. What makes you trustworthy? Adrian pulled a small hollow projector from his pocket and activated it. The image of a young girl appeared, maybe 6 years old, with dark curls and a gap-toothed smile. My daughter, Emma, lives with her mother back on Earth. I send most of my salary home to make sure she has everything she needs. I don't understand. How does this? Because if I betray you, if I'm caught in some conspiracy or assassination plot, I lose everything. My career, my freedom, my ability to provide for my kid. She's my whole world, Your Majesty. I would never risk losing her for any amount of money or political favor. He deactivated the projector. That's not virtue. It's just math. I have more to lose than I could ever gain by turning on you. Lissery studied him with new intensity. You would use your own child as a character reference. I would use the single most important thing in my life as proof that I have something worth protecting, something worth being honorable for. Adrian met her gaze. You want to know if someone can be trusted. Look at what they stand to lose. Look at what they value more than gold or power. For the first time since entering the chamber, the Queen's shoulders relaxed slightly. You're an unusual man, Adrian Cole. I'm a father who happens to be a soldier, ma'am, makes for an unusual perspective. Over the following weeks, something unexpected happened. Queen Lissery began to test her guards, not through official evaluations, but through careful observation. She watched how they interacted when they thought no one was looking. She noted who volunteered for the dangerous shifts, who looked after their fellow guards, who maintained discipline even in tedious circumstances. And she watched Adrian most of all. She saw him spend his off-duty hours reviewing security protocols, identifying weaknesses, suggesting improvements. She observed him training with the other guards, building team cohesion. She noticed that he never spoke ill of anyone, never complained, never sought preferential treatment. One evening, 6 weeks after their first conversation, an alarm screamed through the palace. Intruder detected. Queen's wing. Adrian was first through the door, weapon drawn, body positioned between the Queen and the threat. The other guards poured in seconds later, forming a protective circle. The intruder was a maintenance drone, malfunctioning and sparking. False alarm. But Adrian didn't lower his weapon until the drone was completely neutralized and removed. You could have been killed, the Queen said quietly after the all-clear was given. It might have been rigged to explode, you didn't know. Didn't matter, Your Majesty, that's the job, protecting me even at risk to yourself. Especially at risk to myself, that's what guard means. Lissery looked at him for a long moment. Follow me. She led him to her private study, dismissing the other guards. Inside, she poured 2 glasses of silver wine, Starborn traditional drink, and offered him one. Adrian hesitated. It's not poisoned, she said with a slight smile. I tested it myself, and if I wanted you dead, I'd find a more dignified method than poisoning. You've earned that much. He accepted the glass. I'm honored, Your Majesty. You were right, she said, settling into a chair and gesturing for him to sit as well. I was so afraid of being betrayed that I made it impossible for anyone to be loyal to me. Trust requires vulnerability, and I'd eliminated all vulnerability from my life. And now I'm willing to try, slowly, carefully, but I'm willing. She raised her glass. To small steps toward trust. Adrian raised his own. To small steps. Over the next months, the dynamic shifted. Queen Lissery began eating meals with her advisors again, attended public functions with proper security rather than hiding in her chambers. She still maintained precautions, sensible ones, but she was no longer a prisoner of her own fear. And when intelligence uncovered the actual conspiracy, a network involving several minor nobles and one corrupt admiral, it was the Queen's newly cohesive guard force that dismantled it. Working together, trusting each other's positions, they executed a flawless operation that ended the threat. Adrian played his part, but it was truly a team effort. At the medal ceremony afterward, Queen Lissery personally decorated each guard. When she reached Adrian, she paused. You told me that trust had to be earned, she said. I believe you've earned mine, not through words or promises, but through consistent action, through choosing honor when you could have chosen expediency, through standing your ground when you could have run. She pinned the star of Velkarith to his chest, the highest civilian honor in the realm. Thank you, Adrian Cole, for teaching a queen to trust again. Thank you, Your Majesty, Adrian replied, for being brave enough to try. As he stepped back into formation, Adrian caught his reflection in the polished floor. A human among aliens, a newcomer among legends, a father doing his duty far from home, but also, finally, a trusted guardian, and that he thought was worth more than any medal.